is Jennifer? Are we good? Is she here? All right. Adequate notice of this meeting, as required by the Open Public Meetings Act, was provided through the posting, mailing, and filing of the annual notice of regularly scheduled meetings of the Town Council on December 13, 2018. The notice was, on that date, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, mailed to the Westfield Leader and the Star Ledger, and filed with the clerk of the Town of Westfield. Mrs. Rowley, may I have a roll call?
Mayor Brindle.
Here.
Council members Habgood, Arena.
Here.
Dardia.
Here.
Nealon. Here. LaGrippo.
Here.
Contract.
Here.
Stokes. Mackey.
Here. Please rise for the invocation. Will be given by Councilman Arena and remain standing for the salute.
Eternal God, we gather here tonight praising your name and to ask your blessings on this council. Recalling your wisdom, in quietness and in trust shall be your strength. Help each of us to ponder and deliberate quietly. Help each of us to listen far more than we speak, to question more than to judge, to respond from reason, not emotion, and throughout to turn with trust to you for guidance. Remind us that we are servants of those who elect us to govern and that our responsibilities to them. But with each of us, we carry out those, but be with us, each of us, as we carry out these responsibilities. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think we have two proclamations tonight, so I think we are going to begin with those. And let's see, I'm going to start with, let's see, why don't we start with the Emily, Stuttering Awareness. So Emily, do you want to come up? So the first one is for International Stuttering Awareness Day. Emily Root, here. Sneaking in from behind. Emily is a nationally renowned stuttering expert and was really explained to me really the importance of the acknowledgement. Oh, I'm supposed to use this. All right, now you can hear me, right? And really to talk about the importance of acknowledging stuttering and you know how it's everybody has to. It's more common than we realize, and we have some brave students up with us here tonight to have really really overcome and manage their own issues. So with that. Whereas, according to the International Stuttering Association, October 22nd was designated International Stuttering Awareness Day in 1998 to raise public awareness of the 70 million people worldwide, 1% of the world's population who stutter. And whereas, the National Stuttering Association defines stuttering as a communication disorder involving disruptions or disfluencies in a person's speech. However, there are as many different patterns of stuttering as there are people who stutter, and many different degrees of stuttering from mild to severe. And whereas the precise causes are still unknown, but most researchers now consider stuttering to be a neurological condition that interferes with the production of speech. Genes have also been found to be a factor. And whereas, although the interference with speech fluency is sometimes triggered by emotional or situational factors, stuttering is basically neurological and physiological, not psychological in nature. And whereas, despite scientific breakthroughs in our knowledge about stuttering, there is still no reliable, research-backed cure that works consistently over time and for all people who stutter. However, many individuals benefit from various forms of speech therapy and from support groups like the National Stuttering Association and the Stuttering Foundation. And whereas people who stutter often experience physical tension and struggle in their speech muscles, as well as embarrassment, anxiety, and fear about speaking. When stutterers feel compelled to hide their stuttering, it generally becomes worse. And whereas, because it is widely misunderstood, there are many myths about stuttering, in order to advance acceptance of and support for people who stutter, it is imperative to dispel these myths by emphasizing the facts, including but not limited to the following. It is not a psychological disorder. People who stutter are normal. People stutter in different ways. People who stutter are as intelligent and well-adjusted as those who don't. And stuttering cannot be caught through imitation or by hearing another person stutter. And whereas, although there is no simple cure for stuttering, people who stutter can learn to speak more easily, feel better about themselves and their speaking ability, and communicate more effectively as evidenced by the many famous people who are stutterers, including Emily Blunt, Ed Sheeran, Nicole Kidman, Tiger Woods, James Earl Jones, and Carly Simon. And whereas, for those who are conversing with a person who stutters, it's important to be patient and a good listener. Do not finish sentences for the speaker or give simplistic advice such as relax, slow down, or take a breath. Respect that most people who stutter prefer to speak for themselves. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Mayor Shelley Brindle, in the name of inclusivity and acceptance, hereby designates October 22nd, 2019 as Stuttering Awareness Day in the town of Westfield. Thank you very much. Emily, why don't you say who's got her?
I give these to two really, really brave and special people that I know, and this goes to Dylan, thank you, and to Nolan, and we are so happy and honored that they're here, and they are truly role models, not just to the stuttering community, but to all our entire community, and thank you so much for being here, guys. Thank you.
Squeeze in.
And the next we have is a proclamation acknowledging Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. And oh, there you are. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell a little bit about your background?
My name is Lou McGrone. Moved to Westfield about 3.5 years ago, and shortly after we moved, my wife and I were all excited. We were pregnant with our first child, and unfortunately he was born still. And we had no friends in Westfield, and we didn't know what to do next. And coming from Staten Island, there actually was some blueprints on how to move forward. And so Walk in Sunshine was founded by my wife and I out of Willow Grove Road to help pay for final arrangements for children between 20 weeks gestation and 18 years old in Union County, and we've made a handful of donations so far, and then also to be a best-in-class website for loss of any child. So we're going to continue to build out the website for pediatric cancer loss, suicide, addiction, but if you were to go to walkinsunshinecharity.org, most of the resources now are kind of focused around infant loss, but there's definitely more to come, and we think it's worthwhile, and we see the hits on the website and the unique visitors and the page visits are going up weekly. So we're just really honored that Mayor Brindle was able to acknowledge us tonight. We're just very fortunate.
Well, thank you, Lou. And you had a good conversation with the county, too, you said, right? So it's not just Westfield, it's everywhere. So thank you, and I'm very happy to do this. So whereas on October 25th, 1988, the Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Movement began in the U.S. when President Ronald Reagan designated the month of October as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. And whereas each year, approximately 26,000 families in the U.S. are told that their unborn baby has died before birth, and experts have referred to stillbirth as the most understudied issue in medicine today. Wow. And whereas many Westfield parents and families have suffered a miscarriage, stillbirth, or the death of an infant during delivery or shortly after birth, and whereas the town wishes to acknowledge the profound grief experienced by families who suffer the death of a small child, infant, or preterm baby, and whereas the town also wishes to acknowledge the existence of the babies and infants that died far too early, and whereas promoting awareness of the challenges faced by those parents and families is a positive means of establishing support and understanding. And whereas residents Lou and Francine McGrone know firsthand about infant loss through stillbirth when on January 6, 2017, God called their beloved Joseph Lewis home. As they shared, the days following Joseph's birth were long and riddled with tasks that no one was preparing for the arrival of a baby would ever want to imagine. To help others who may experience such a devastating loss, the Magrones launched the Walk in Sunshine charity in August of 2018. The charity helps parents who have lost a child through stillbirth or other unexpected loss by providing online resources for families around the world and financial assistance to New Jersey families. In the future, they hope Walk in Sunshine will grow to support better stillbirth and infant loss research and prevention. And whereas raising awareness of pregnancy and infant loss will increase the likelihood that families who have suffered such a devastating loss will receive the support and understanding they need, and is also a critical component of bringing the necessary attention and funding to this issue. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Mayor Shelley Brindle, hereby designates the month of October 2019 as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month in the town of Westfield. Be it further proclaimed that I, on behalf of a grateful community, thank Lou and Francine Magrone for their extraordinary efforts to help others through the Walk in Sunshine charity they created. For those who need assistance or those who would like to assist, please visit the charity's website, walkinsunshinecharity.org. Thank you very much, and thank you. Okay, Jim.
Couple of quick updates for the public. Get this microphone working here. So we have the road program continues. Good news. We have 2 roads left. We had Embry Crescent was paved yesterday. We do expect that Twin Oaks Terrace should be paved tomorrow before it rains. And the last road that we actually authorized this year was North Wickham, which does require some extra work. There's drainage work that was pre-planned for that road, so that's the next one on the list. Also, separate from the roads list that was approved this year, we did approve paving of Park Drive right outside Town Hall here, and that has not been done yet because we also were going to do the pathways in Mindawaskan Park prior to that, so we don't have to, have trucks roll over the new road. You remember that we did approve a new bid award of a contract to a new vendor or to a vendor with new material last meeting. So we're hoping that the pathways in Mindawaskan can start later this month or November, and then Park Drive can be done after that. Worst case, it'll be transferred to the spring. But that'll wrap up all the roads, carryover from last year, which is Park Drive and the pathways, and the last 2 roads, North Twin Oaks Terrace, hopefully tomorrow, and North Wickham after that this year. So really an amazing list of roads, amazing progress in really one calendar year. So and I want to thank Chris McAloo and his staff again for everything. A couple of updates on various items. Bulk waste program. We're in the 3rd week of the bulk waste program. Ward 3 is this week. Ward 4 next week, where the program wraps up. We did have 361 participants this year, a little bit less than the bid requested, but the vendor still agreed to participate anyway. And so that will wrap up next week. And so another successful season there for those who wanted to participate. Also, 2 other projects that are, or actually 4 other projects that are going on or in the process of being planned right now. Lot number 7, which is the parking lot across from the post office, that was done last year. There was a piece of it that could not be finished due to DOT permitting. Those permits are coming through now, which is the sidewalk that is abuts the lot number 7 along North Avenue, basically from the area of where the AT&T Wolves Den store is down to the end of our parking lot right before you get to the AR workshop area. So so that project we awarded a contract a few weeks ago on that. Chris has met with the DOT, or meeting with the DOT this week, and the contractor, and hopefully that'll start soon. It's a very short window for a project, but the majority of time is for the permits to come in and the noticing requirements ahead of time. But that'll be done finally, and that'll be a nice sidewalk improvement for that area. Also, the newsstand / kiosk at the South Avenue train station lot. If you haven't been out there, work has begun to repair, renovate that whole kiosk so that when we are finished, we'll be able to go out to RFP, request for proposals, to get a vendor in there to provide concession to the public and commuters. So that is going on. It's a lot more work than we originally anticipated, but the work continues, and we hope to have that done shortly. Mural. So we've been talking about a mural now for many, many months. Good news is we had transit approval. I spoke to the contractor that's donating their time and labor to this cause. They're meeting with New Jersey Transit tomorrow at the site, and they hope that they'll be able to begin to install the framing and hooks that are required to go on the wall this week. I also spoke to the artist tonight at our art exhibit prior to this meeting tonight, and let him know that. So he's hoping that he can, once that frame is up, he'll start painting. So the next 2 weeks, you'll start seeing some major improvements or work started on the underpass on the north side, which is the side between September 11th Memorial and Foundation Park. And so that'll start very soon. Lambert's Mill Rawway traffic light. This has been going on for some time. A lot of work was done behind the scenes on getting easements, procuring easements on properties, working with the county. Good news is that we're close to the finish line. Our engineer has met with the county just last week. We do expect this is a county project and paid for by the county. So the county will expect hopefully to go out for advertisements later this year and look to be a traffic light to be installed at Rawway Avenue and Lambert's Mill Road, most likely next spring, summer. So that's actually very good news. It's been many years in the making, but it'll be a very welcome improvement over there. So some of the things that are going on behind the scenes, but very important stuff, and a lot of things will come to fruition very soon. So,
Jim, just real quick with the kiosk, with the extra work, is the cost going to go up, or is it?
As of right now, we don't think so. No, the contractor indicated to Chris that it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't be any increased cost. As I said in the previous meeting, we did meet out there last week with engineer, with electrical and plumbing people, which right now there's never been plumbing to the actual kiosk in the past. We want to do that, and hopefully if transit can work with us, which they expect to, they will, that will be not a big increased cost there either. But right now, it's yet to be seen, but right now we don't think there'll be any increased cost.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. And so I obviously have a bit of an update for everybody tonight. And but before I begin, I do want to acknowledge some significant events that I was actually fortunate enough to participate in today. I first want to congratulate Joseph Sartinella and Phyllis Reichman, who after 40 years of being together decided to get married today. And I had the privilege of performing their ceremony in my office, which was great. And then, if that wasn't enough, I got to meet Ethel Terry Bethea and read a proclamation from the town acknowledging her 110th birthday. Yes, that's not a typo. 110th birthday, born in 1909. She had quite a remarkable story, and she had quite a few jokes to tell, too, so it was quite amazing. So it's quite an afternoon, and but I do have, and that was kind of fun. And so a few items I want to cover before we get to the business at hand tonight. Regarding, I'm sure everybody heard the announcement about the Raritan Valley Line and the one-seat ride. First and foremost, it was great to see the efforts of finally of the Raritan Valley Line Mayor's Alliance begin to pay off with Governor Murphy's announcement in Westfield yesterday of the long overdue restoration of the off-peak one-seat ride on November 4th. As I stated publicly yesterday, while I'm thrilled with yesterday's announcement, I do remain frustrated that it took this long only to regain the service we previously fought to obtain, and it still doesn't benefit 80% of daily commuters. So I want to be careful that we weren't over-celebrating something. It was just a long fight to get back what we deserved. I just felt like we shouldn't have had to fight this hard to get the service we should have already had. So very well aware of that. We do remain committed to working with both Governor Murphy and Congressman Malinowski and other groups to attain future RVL peak and weekend one-seat ride service. And I do think that was really what was most important about that announcement, that we actually had a governor and a congressman in our town talking about the importance of the RVL and pledging to work towards a peak one-seat ride. So I think that's just a demonstration. It's on their radar. They know it's a priority. And we now have a great, I think, collaborative groups in place to try and make it a reality. So they know we're not satisfied until that happens. So more to come on that. I also want to thank everyone who came out on a rainy afternoon, a rainy night earlier this month to hear the summary of the public input of the master plan reexamination. It was very engaging, and it was great to see that there is a consensus emerging around key topics related to downtown development, parking, to name a few. For those of you who couldn't be there, the full presentation is on the town website, and we do remain on track to have the reexamination adopted by the planning board at a public meeting on December 2nd, and all are invited to attend. Speaking of the future, I'd like to update you on the activity surrounding next year's Westfield 300 initiative. Our steering committee has met several times to map out some key events and committees. It's going to be a year-long commemoration of our 300th anniversary in 2020, and we are going to be asking for a lot of volunteers in the coming weeks. Early plans include concerts, lectures, walking tours, a book fair, public art displays, and did I mention fireworks? So it's going to be one big annual event, and we're all very excited about it. But tonight, I'm thrilled to unveil the winner of the Westfield 300 logo contest. After reviewing lots of submissions, wonderful and creative submissions, many town the entry by local designer Jen Wilner. And where is Jen? Is she here? I'm going to ask you to come up in just a minute. Jen's design was chosen by this group, to the committee, to represent this big milestone. She's here with us. She's going to unveil the logo, and she's also in the process of creating several different variations that could be widely used in different communities and businesses throughout 2020. And it's something that we're going to have a version for retailers, restaurants, the DWC events. It's a patch that we'd like to see the athletic teams put on their uniforms, that we want to see that it's Westfield 300 is really a community-wide celebration acknowledgement that we want every resident to take some ownership of. So thank you to everybody who submitted amazing logos. The process once again revealed the depth of talent in our community. And I'm going to ask Jen to come up and maybe share a little bit about, and actually I'm going to let Jim be the unveil, and then, and so Jen, does Jen need the microphone, Jim? Okay, and Jen, I thought you could tell everybody how you got to that point, and then maybe talk about what you imagine for some of the iterations.
Okay, hi, Jen Wilner, and this was my submission for the Westfield 300 year anniversary logo contest that was run by Westfield. I actually wasn't going to enter in the competition. I saw the call for entries, and it was kind of a busy summer, and I had a lot of work, and I wasn't sure, and I was like, well, you know what, I'll think about it. And then I had a couple free hours, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to think about this a little bit more and do a little research and figure out something. And I actually had a totally different idea that I did not submit. And my second idea was actually this one. And I guess the impetus for the whole thing was that the 3 and the W kind of are similar shapes. And so, I don't know, that was rolling around in my head, and I spent a few hours thinking about how to make that work. So it's kind of a happy accident that ended up working out this way, and it kind of has a frame, and I picked the weather vane that is on East Broad Street above the Gap as sort of my symbol for the town. I don't know, every time I come through downtown I see that, and just gave me, and it's kind of also colonial-ish, so I wanted to mix that kind of old colonial times with a more modern sort of framework. And then the next happy accident is really I could put anything in this space, because it turned out to be like sort of a nice frame, and so that turned into, well, I could put in Sweet Sounds of Downtown, I could put in Adams Fest, I could put in really any symbol of Westfield into this space. So when the mayor was talking about how we're going to roll this out into different areas and aspects of our town, I kind of did a bunch of different versions, and this area could be shopping or dining or the Blue Devil or something like that. So I've done a few iterations, and I guess as we come up with more ideas for ways that we can use this, I will continue to create them.
Thank you so much, Jen. Really appreciate it. So.
Jim, there's the 300 years. Is that when the town was settled, or is that when it was incorporated?
Settled.
Settled.
Corporation was 1903.
1903.
And I think one of the things we're also hoping is to maybe improve signage, like put new signs entering town, talk about, really reinforcing the 1720s. So lots to come, lots still in the planning stages, but now we have a logo and you're going to start seeing like merchandise and things like that. So next, I did want to acknowledge that Back to School Day, Walk to School Day, not recently, where I walked with Hudson Ferrigno, who a McKinley first grader, and it turns out I got to walk with the entire block, which was great, on Austin Street. And I did want to thank the Breaks and the organizer, Mary Camacho, for really what is a great walk to school event, and she's one that makes it all possible. I also want to acknowledge some businesses that have opened or about to open. So I don't know if you've been to Design Hub yet on Quimby Street. It's fantastic. It opened officially last weekend. A warm welcome to them, as well as the soon-to-open Lavash, which is the highly anticipated second restaurant, a Mediterranean restaurant from the owners of Spice Bazaar. And I think that's planning on opening in about 2 weeks. I also want to remind everybody that Coffee with a Cop is tomorrow at Starbucks from 11 to 1. Some of our great officers will be on hand to meet with the public, answer questions. I want to thank Chief Badalora once again for continuing to prioritize community policing model. And I think we've all been the beneficiaries of what he's already done in creating a stronger relationship between the police and residents. I do want to remind everybody, too, about early voting prior to the election on November 5th. It's historically a low turnout election, and we'd like to change that. So I already voted when my daughter came home from college. I thought it was a good thing for us to do together. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 a.m. to 4, Tuesday, Thursday, 8 a.m. to 7:30, and Saturday, 9 to 1. So no need to wait and risk lines on Election Day, so you can do it right now. I also did just want to give a brief update on the Rialto. Started off with an amazing event last Thursday for the premiere event of the Addams Family. It was a huge thanks to MGM, who really gifted us the movie for that one particular night, and in particular owners Jesse and Doreen Sage, who went above and beyond to see this event through. And I mentioned that night when the theater closed unexpectedly, even from them, the one thing that they were really committed to making happen is make sure that we could show that movie in the Rialto one time. So it was really great, very heartwarming. The submissions for the Rialto Rising contest were quite phenomenal. And we are in regular contact with the Sages. I talk to Jesse very often, and we are soon going to be putting together like an investment advisory board to work with the town and the Sages to identify a potential path forward in terms of what the potential opportunities are for the Rialto. So more to come on that very shortly. As we lead into Adams Fest, Thursday screening was the perfect kickoff. I hope everybody has had a chance to walk downtown and look at the windows. It seems like they have been, the game has been upped with Wicked Windows. Councilwoman Dawn Mackey, chairwoman of Adams Fest, did an amazing job of not only matching artists with windows, but putting together everything. You've got the gorgeous Adams Family House on the pond, 25 homes entered the Haunt Your House contest, and there's a gazillion events. If you please go on to adamsfest.com, check them all out. There is something for everybody. And so far, the weather looks promising for this weekend. And it's going to be a great day for Family Fun Zone on Quimby Street all day Sunday. So thanks to Councilwoman Mackey, an army of volunteers, and hope that everybody comes out and enjoys this celebration in its second year. And lastly, I just want to address something that has come up. I do want to thank Westfield Unico and the Italian American Club for inviting me to speak once again at last weekend's Columbus Day celebration. It was great to see everybody there. I do want to congratulate former Councilman Sam Della Fera for being named Honorary Grand Marshal. But I do want to address something that's come up. I know some of you may have heard about a Facebook post and a call to action from the Italian American One Voice Coalition. It's a national advocacy group that's based in Bloomfield, and they are claiming I was discriminating against Italian Americans for not flying the Italian flag at Town Hall on Columbus Day. I had not been contacted by this group beforehand to explain my position. I was actually in Minnesota visiting my daughter for Parents' Weekend, and I got a call from a reporter, and that was how I'd first heard about it. And just a little bit of background, Westfield has never flown the flag from another country, and it doesn't seem that previous mayors or councils were either asked or chose not to do so. I checked with other Union County mayors, and they have not done so either, and yet Westfield is being singled out by this national group. But from what I understand, the issue seems to be with the fact that we flew the pride flag, which was intended to reiterate that Westfield is an inclusive and welcoming community for all. So just allow me to provide a little bit of context as why we're not flying the Italian flag or any other country's flag for that matter. Most importantly, the flag code supported by the American Legion clearly states that flags from other nations must be flown on a separate pole, something Westfield can't accommodate today with the current flagpole configuration at Town Hall. While some may consider that protocol arcane or choose to ignore it, I take it very seriously. My dad was killed in Vietnam defending and dying for the American flag and the values it represents. I do not take lightly the request to fly another nation's flag alongside it, and will always treat the American flag with the reverence it deserves. There is no intention on anyone's part to disrespect Italian Americans who have contributed so much to our country and to our community. This is not a commentary on Christopher Columbus, which some with political motives may want you to believe. It was simply a decision driven by practical and protocol considerations. I have prided myself on creating an inclusive community, demonstrated not only by the Pride event, but also by the first ever creation of a senior advisory council, the Adaptive Inclusivity Council, and the Mental Health Commission, to name a few of our initiatives. And of course, we recently held Westfield's first multicultural festival, the inspiration for which was, ironically, last year's Columbus Day event. After I met with them about last year, I said, you know what, we should have a celebration for everybody. I was thrilled that Unico participated in that event after I had personally extended the invitation to them. To be accused of acting in any discriminatory way flies in the face of what I have prioritized since assuming office last year. I think the real issue at hand is the lack of insight into the process of how this decision was made, which can make it feel arbitrary and capricious, which I can assure you it was not. However, that perspective is something I can understand and I do appreciate, and I will seek to address that before any such decisions are made in the future. And there's actually a very simple solution to this for consideration. If organizations would considering donating 2 flagpoles and the cost of installation, potentially maybe as a Westfield 300 legacy project, we could fly flags for numerous occasions and organizations in the future. The main pole would fly the American flag, the other poles would fly the POW-MIA flag and the town flags respectively on a permanent basis. I believe there are compromises and solutions to every challenge, and I'm committed to not letting the tribal politics that are taking over our national discourse be interjected into our community. I will continue to equally support any and all of the diverse groups that make Westfield such a warm and welcoming place to live. So I do really appreciate everyone for their comments and their support, and I was very happy to have the opportunity to address, I think, a lot of misinformation that's out there. So with that, we'll get on to the business at hand tonight.
I'd just like to add
Actually,
that.
you know what, we're going to wait on comments until we can speak publicly. That would be appropriate.
I just have one question. Bear Burger, do we have any update on when Bear Burger is opening?
Bear Burger? Bear Burger is, there's some significant building issues that they're having, but they've gotten some permits that have been approved, and we're still waiting on that. So, Mrs. Riley, do we have any advertised hearings?
Yes, Mayor, there's an advertised hearing for General Ordinance Number 2146, an ordinance to amend the code of the Town of Westfield, Chapter 13. Anyone wishing to be heard on General Ordinance Number 2146, please come up to the microphone, state your name, and address for the record. Seeing no one, Mayor may close the hearing.
This hearing is closed. Councilman Dardia, please move for the adoption of General Ordinance Number 2146.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move for the adoption of General Ordinance Number 2146 on second reading, an ordinance to amend the code of the Town of Westfield, Chapter 13.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Contract. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Habgood, Councilman Arena,
Yes.
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilwoman Nealon,
Yes.
Councilman LaGrippo,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
Yes.
Councilman Stokes, Councilwoman Mackey,
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the Town Council conference session and regular meeting of September 24, 2019?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman LaGrippo, second.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Mackey. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried. Mrs. Riley, do we have any petitions or communications? Now it's time for open discussion by citizens. Anyone may come up to the microphone and speak to the council on any subject on which you have jurisdiction. Please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 10 minutes.
I stutter. I might not. Joseph Wilson, 520 Downer Street. I don't like being here. I'm going to put my timer on. I know I'm already on the clock, but stopwatch. I'm here pursuant to the First Amendment and the right to redress the government, the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And this particular grievance involves the town code. That's why I'm here, about the town code mainly. The police department, the fire department, and the municipal court. I have no grievance against any of those four entities. The specific grievance I am addressing is nuisance yard fires. I do not want to happen to another resident in this town what has happened to me and what is happening to me now. As it stands now, the town code is not equipped to address this issue. The police hands are tied. The fire department cannot act on it. And now the matter is back in the courts again. On the night of June 21st of this year, I went to sleep rather early. I don't know what time I went to sleep. It was a open window night. At around 10:40 p.m., I was awakened by strong fumes of smoke throughout. I was on the first floor at that time. Throughout the premises, it was strong. I didn't think there was a fire in the house. I looked out the window, and my next door neighbor to the west had a raging fire going. So my first action was to text them. I have one text for that residence, to text and say, you're supposed to notify me before you light a fire per the court-mandated mediation agreement I have with these individuals, Mr. and Mrs., from 4 years ago. I didn't get any response back, so I called the police. They came out, told me that their hands are tied, there's nothing they can do about it, and the fire was in compliance. They later got a fire pit. They used to have fires without a fire pit, which is illegal, but that's going back 4 years. So then I finally got a text in defiance of this consent agreement saying that he can have a fire, or we can have a fire. So I was thinking, what am I going to do about this? So I had resolved that I was going to contact the mediation panel from the municipal court, because this matter was resolved. It went to the courts in 2015. So what happened was that same fire was left unattended into the middle of the night. And I watched the fire out the window. I couldn't sleep. I was really upset because this consent agreement had worked for almost 4 years. They had contacted me every time that they burned a fire, and they have frequent fires, so I could close the windows so that it would not become a nuisance. So at around 2:20 a.m., I called the police again and said there's an unattended fire raging in this property next door to me, and they came and put it out. So I've filed an Oprah request to get a police CAD report for the unattended fire, which I have here. Well, I don't have to hold it up. It's here. I have all my paperwork. And I took that report and went to the municipal court on Monday, the 24th of June, and I signed complaints for the Town Code 14-5 disorderly premises. And I was given a first appearance for them and told that I should definitely be there because it's probably going to go back to the panel again to resolve this. So I'm looking at my time here. Wow. I've almost used almost half of it, and there was a whole lot I have to say, and I'm probably not going to get it all in. So I was told to come. It was sometime in July. Then I got a phone call from the court telling me, do not come in. The matter has been moved to Union Township for a conflict of interest. And out of respect for this body here, I won't say what that conflict of interest is, but suffice it to say that the case was moved to Union. So 2.5 months went by. And then on September 17th, I got a phone call from a woman whose name I have. I even have her voice message. I have the records of several calls with her from the Judge Judy TV show, asking me if I want to go on the program with this other party next door about the fire, about my complaint that I filed. I thought it was a prank call. So I said no, and I vented a little, whatever. And I later found out when I investigated that it was a legitimate call. I called her back, and she divulged to me that she was in conference with that other party first, and they wanted to go on. And she thought it was atypical, not typical protocol that they talk to the defendant. So it is unclear how the defendant was in contact with them trying to get me to go on. I declined on September 17th. On September 18th, they went up to Union and filed 4 criminal complaints against me based on a certification in support of probable cause, which is perjurious. Now, perjury is a statute. I can already prove that this rises to the level of false swearing, which is a lesser statute, which does carry prison time. This is perjurious. Who goes into court and tells outright lies about their neighbor to bring them down? That I'm a monster, that I'm threatening his family, I'm threatening his children, that I scream at his children. And it was him who signed it. It contradicts another legal document that he filed previously. And that is the threshold for false swearing. And he's going to have to answer for that. So I'm facing 2 years in prison based on these 4 criminal complaints. So it was just the one charge. It was my town code charge. It was probably going to somehow be settled. And now I'm facing 4 criminal charges. 2 of them are nuisance charges for literally, the summons reads, for calling the police and fire on their fire pit. I never called the fire department. I called dispatch. Not only that, I was instructed by, and I won't give his name, a police official, it's not the chief, it's someone lower, told me, if you ever have an issue with them, call us. And his exact words were, that's what we're here for. So now, I'm asking this body not to just listen to what I say and move on, but I would like you to amend the town code to address recreational fires. And if I may submit Cranford's ordinance, it basically deals with nuisance. Fires are, hold on, how much time I got? All right. I just wanted to bring in the Fourth Amendment briefly. Justice Brandeis, who you've probably heard of, there's a university named after him. the Fourth Amendment is search and seizure, but it's the right to privacy. And in 1890, he wrote about the evolution of the right of privacy. I wanted to read one sentence from this, how things developed and society gets more crowded.
You have 1 minute, right?
Yes, I have a minute. Much later, there came a qualified protection of the individual against offensive noises and odors, against dust and smoke and excessive vibration. The law of nuisance was developed. I have no recourse, no redress of this grievance because there's nothing in the town code. I'd like to submit to you, if you want to receive this. This is the. Hold on, is that it? Yes. Several municipalities, locally and in the state and around the country, are amending municipal codes to address this particular nuisance. And the Cranford Township Code empowers police, fire, and a health official to order a fire extinguished if it becomes a nuisance. It's not debatable, it's not arguable. And one other thing, I have a couple seconds. I have the fire department's report of the incidents that happened in 2015, and this is so pathetic. This battalion chief, retired now, went around to several neighbors, and because they did not deem it a nuisance, it was not deemed a nuisance to me. But I happen to live right next door to the east where the prevailing winds come. And now I'm looking at 2 years in prison because Doug Stokes perjured himself against me, to have me put away.
Okay, I'm sorry, Ms. Will, your time is up. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you for
Thank you.
Thank you for
I hope you
here.
act on this.
Thank you.
To amend the town code, please.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, sir.
Perjury. Outrage.
Thanks for coming, Mr. Wilson.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Swenson. I live at 762 Clark Street. I have a grandson who, with his mother, lives with me and goes to Lincoln School. We are in the Franklin School District. So the bus from Lincoln School to Franklin School does not leave until 3:20. Does not get to Franklin School until 3:40, 3:45. The crossing guards are dismissed at 3:30, and they are not allowed to stay any longer. So I found that out because I called the crossing guard company, spoke with them a few times about why there's no crossing guards for kindergartners, 20 on the bus. And they said, because the contract is only until 3:30. It called the sergeant Ostrander or something like that, and spoke with him, and he said, well, that's what their contract is, and it's parents' responsibility to take care of the kindergartners, but it's the school who's bringing them back to Franklin School after the crossing guards leave. It's a very busy, Franklin School is very busy. There's soccer games going on. The teachers are leaving at that time. There's all kinds of traffic. You know, we've instructed our grandson, I'm the one who meets him, if he doesn't see us, to just stand there, but he's 5 years old. There's 25-year-olds there who potentially could just walk out into the street. The bus driver does not check to see if everybody, you know, when you pick someone up at first grade, they have to say, oh, I see your mother. The bus driver just lets them, unbuckles them, and they all kind of pile out. So it's a very unsafe thing. I've called Dr. Dolan's office. She referred me to the police. I called the Lincoln School office. They referred me to the Board of Education. I called Franklin School. They said to me that's not their problem, even though it's Franklin School kindergartners. I've gone around. Now, I was not going to come here, I was going to put this all in a letter because I've talked around, and no one, someone came to my house yesterday to solicit a vote, and they said, bring this to the town council. I'm pretty sure that the same thing affects Wilson School and Washington School, because those are the three that they bus. But it's not right that there are no crossing guards for these 5-year-old and 6-year-old kids. We should be protecting them. When someone gets hit, then, you don't want to be doing something then.
Who said 3:30? The crossing guard who said they have to leave at 3:30?
The crossing guard company said that's what their contract is. The police officer said their contract ends at 3:30, and I said, well, what, then send police officer there for the 10 minutes when the bus is there. He goes, we can't do that, we don't have the manpower. Dr. Dolan's office said, we have to talk to the police. It's just a big runaround, but I have 20 kids on a bus, getting off a bus with no crossing guard.
Jim, how was that done previously last year before the switch? Was it always 3:30 or?
Yes, it's always been 3:30. As a matter of fact, my daughter was a kindergarten when the program first started. We've never provided a crossing guard past 3:30 because kindergartners normally are with a parent, or in this case, a grandparent. And they're now also not dropped off at the crosswalk. They're dropped off in front of the school, Franklin School. I don't know where they are dropped off at Wilson and Washington. But we can definitely have the Public Safety Committee look at this and talk to the schools and look into it further. Doesn't that we can't look at it, but it's never been a crossing guard there since the program started.
So it's nothing to do with this ACMS. It's
No,
just
they
been a
accepted
policy in place.
our schedule. We gave them the same schedule they're putting out. So there was no change to new crossing guard company. And if I remember correctly, I think because it is only the north side schools that are bused to Lincoln, I have a vague recollection of working with the schools when Lincoln School first opened, about having the buses stay until every child was with somebody, with a parent or grandparent. But we can look into that. We can call the schools and talk to them as well. This can be, obviously a conversation with them, because obviously we're working with the school bus company, which we don't control, what their schedules are, when they drop off, and how those things work, and then of course a school property as well, which we don't control. But we never provided crossing guards there for that drop off.
And the rationale is because typically they're with parents are waiting for them?
Correct.
Right?
Smaller children usually are always with the parent walking and or getting dropped off. As a matter of fact, if you remember some of the meetings we had with ACMS, they were surprised to learn that we provided crossing guards for high school students, and they were surprised we provided crossing guards for kindergarten students. That's something normally you see across the country. But again, that's what we provided to them, so they're doing our schedule as we gave it to them.
So I have a question. So Jim, you saying that when the crossing guards were handled locally, that they would leave at 3:30 if they saw students waiting around there?
No, so the crossing guards have a schedule. Everyone has a schedule. What is being brought up here is the school children that go to Lincoln.
No, I understand, but
I think the crossing guard
there's been a gap. So there's always been a gap there.
Always been a gap. Yes.
I find that unacceptable, and if had I known that that was the case, I would never have approved that we allowed the crossing guards to leave before the smallest and most, vulnerable students are left unattended until there's a connection. Like you said, first graders have to connect, hand off to a parent or a guardian. In this instance, the school bus allows 25-year-olds to stand there unattended. We knew this and approved that kind of a contract.
That's what we've heard tonight. I don't know that that's actually happening. Most of the parents are there. I experienced it myself with my own daughter.
So even if it's three children, is that acceptable?
I know, but we're going what we heard tonight, and as I said, we can definitely discuss in the Public Safety Committee. But that's always been the case, and that's always been how it's worked.
This has never come to my attention. Had I known this, I certainly would not have approved any kind of a contract.
But Joanne, I don't think it has to do with the contract. I think this is a long-standing issue.
But it
and
was
I think
never
we
brought
should
to
look.
our attention.
We should. Well, obviously it hasn't, but we should look into it, we should find out if the school's providing somebody to meet the buses. I can't imagine the schools are leaving these kids unattended coming out of the bus.
Us that it happened.
Just Jim, real quick. So the contract, that's the company's 3:30. The crossing guard company. So in their contract, they have to leave at 3:30.
Yeah, same exact thing we used to do for years. Yeah.
The switch to the contractor has not, this problem
There's really
predates.
nothing to do with this,
Predate, it's irrelevant. So I think this woman, thank you for pointing out an opportunity, clearly. We should look into it, because if the kids are being dropped off and unattended, I don't think any of us are comfortable with that.
Right. And I'd also like to say that, so this clearly does predate this contract, and we need to address this holistically. So let's look at all the schools where the kindergartners are being
Washington,
dropped
Wilson.
off.
Washington, Wilson, and Franklin.
Yeah, agreed.
So we could put added to public safety. We'll take a-
Yeah, that's what I suggest, yeah, absolutely.
And I'd also like to say, I observed this morning at 8:30, or 8:15, 8:15 on Kimball Circle, a police officer sitting in a vehicle where a crossing guard should be, and I thought we hired this firm to alleviate that problem because we didn't have the resources. It was supposed to be because we were going to save money by having the police do policing work and not do crossing. I don't know why there was a police officer sitting at that post.
As we previously discussed in council meetings the past number of weeks, the crossing guard company has not gotten every post filled yet. So there's still a couple of posts left that the police officers are covering until they have the proper personnel hired and trained to take over those posts. So there's, I think, three posts, I think, police chief, that were still, and they're in the process of training, and you'll see some posts right now where there's 2 crossing guards. There's been a couple, maybe more than that, at some where they're being trained to then take over the final posts. So there's still a couple that are out there. Great, thanks.
But thank you for your comments, and we'll definitely look into and see what we can do. I'm actually having a meeting with 2 of the school board people next week, and maybe there's a mutual solution. Thank you, though.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Jessica Rinaldi from 150 Harrison Avenue, and I am the crossing guard in front of Franklin. And my time has always been 2:55 to 3:25. Now, lots of times I used at 3:25 start collecting my cones, so I may stay there till 3:30. But we were told we needed to leave, at that time. And I've been there for, 13 years, so that's the time, 2:55 to 3:25, not even to 3:30.
So that's always been your time?
Always been that time at that post. Always.
And have you ever seen 5-year-olds left unattended before?
Well, the bus comes usually after I'm gone. The only time that I see the bus is when we have those half days, and I have an hour on the post. So I'm usually there when the kindergarten bus comes. But that's usually the first week in November when we have that, in front of us, we have the parent-teacher conferences. So, or when we have a half a day, I have an hour on that post. So I do get to see the kindergarten bus and can cross the kids. But otherwise, that's the time. I just wanted everybody to know it's not 3:30.
Have you heard this?
3:25.
Is this new? Have you heard complaints from other parents for the kindergartens? Is this?
If I'm not there.
I didn't know if maybe in the morning or something, if you've just.
A long time ago, I remember we were told with another lieutenant that they were going to make our post an hour post, but it never happened. So, and I don't know if it was about the same time when the kindergarten buses came.
Oh, I see.
So
Right.
I can understand people's
Concerns.
concern.
Of course.
Absolutely, because
Yeah.
it can be crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
And Franklin's
That's all I
busy.
wanted to clarify.
Franklin's busy, but thank you for the clarification.
Jessica, just real quick, as a long-time crossing guard, maybe you're happy with the change in company,
Well,
or it's just someone
I don't
could
really
provide
want to
feedback?
discuss that at this time, okay?
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify,
Thank you.
Jim, I had another suggestion, which is I imagine the school knows who's on these buses. So I'm sure they could contact every parent who's on these buses and find out what their practice is, and that might give us
they'd
some.
like to see.
And what they'd like to see. So let's tailor this solution to the folks who are most affected by it, who are the kids on the bus. We have this one resident, but there's 19 other kids, on the bus, and there's probably 20 at the other 2 schools.
They do make sure that the kindergartner gets on the right bus. They have little stickers that we put
Yeah.
on the back, but it's when they get
Yeah.
Understood.
at the school, and like I said, the bus driver is helping some of them can't undo the seatbelts. So he's helping them do the seatbelts. They're running off the bus. So they either need another person or but it really is that they need a crossing guard there because it's not a safe situation.
Well, thank you. We will look into it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks.
Hi, Liz Mulholland, Westfield. I wanted to speak on that actually because I have a younger child, and she took the bus all the time. If you're on the school bus for kindergarten, your bus comes much later than the elementary schools get out. So when I'm waiting for the bus to pick up, when I get there to pick up my child, there's about 6 of us in cars, and we're all waiting for the bus to come. There's nobody left at the school. Even the kids are gone, long gone, and kids play around. There's nobody in the front. So I would say it's about 10 to 15 minutes minimum after the kids get up, maybe even a half an hour to 40 minutes minimum, probably, on a normal. Yeah, because there's no kids left there. What happens is the bus drivers let the kids out, but there's an aide that stands by the bus and waits. The kids aren't just let out to run free. There is an aide that's watching them, and the parents are all waiting to pick up their children. It has been this way since Lincoln has been open.
Is that at every school?
Yeah.
That happens at Franklin too?
It happens at all schools. That's just we're literally the school gets out at 3:05.
307 or 305?
3:05.
Yeah.
And our kids did not get home. My children did get home till 3:40, 3:45, and sometimes 3:50. Because you never know what the bus situation, busing can be crazy. But no, they have an aide. There's 2 people. There's the bus driver and an aide. The aide gets out, and the children come out, and the aide stays there. They don't just open the door and let the kids run out. That's the way it's always been.
Well, we'll confirm that with the
Yeah,
school. Thank you.
So I just wanted to provide some clarity.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
We'll confirm that.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Sean Smith, 541 Cumberland Street, Westfield, New Jersey. Just to finish up on the kindergarten issue, a lot of this seems to be more of a practical issue. The new security measures that went into place this fall have slowed down the release of children at the end of the day. I've had 2 children go through Lincoln. I can tell you the difference from when my son was released to my daughter who's there now is pretty significant, almost 10 to 15 minutes at the school.
Wow.
The busing process is slower. It is a much more one-on-one process for the appropriate reasons, but it is a much slower process to revolve getting the children out of the school. Certainly the kids going onto the buses, you see that happening. And that time of day driving across town is a nightmare for anybody, so I'm sure a bus driver is having equal trouble. So I'm sure when you have a conversation with the Board of Ed, you're going to see the real practical issue. I don't think there's any ill will. I don't think it's being caused. You're creating situations on purpose. I can tell you from everything I've seen personally, it is is this your child? Okay, that child goes. Then the next one, then the next one, then the next one. It is not a free-for-all at any location. That being said, first I wanted to thank the council first for the fact that you are all here really as volunteers and public servants to the town. You've taken on a pretty significant task as part of our greater democracy, and as a citizen within Westfield, I'm very appreciative of that. In the last year or so, I've seen quite a bit of development occurring within the town, both in downtown and surrounding the town, with ordinance changes, little things. I just saw today the sign for the Roar Brewing Company, or Roar Lion Brewing Company, just finished getting painted. Great developmental step to get people and foot traffic going. And you're doing all of that progress while the master plan is sitting in the background, while that hasn't been completed, which has been a great thing. Adams Fest, awesome. The lights in front of the municipal building, great. The activity and the citizens getting involved, wonderful. But I find myself curious as to why we're also failing at the same time while we're doing all of this. We're failing our youngest citizens of the town. And while I appreciate everything that you're doing, I was here 18 months ago when there was a plan to redevelop part of Tamaqua Park that was stopped. Now, I understand that we have governmental changes all of the time. You very often want to take a look and hey, let's slow down, let's take a look, make sure it's being vetted. And I was here, I guess it was March of 18, Mayor, where you said, listen, take me to task if I don't follow through in getting certain things done. And I was here 6 months ago, and for the first time I got up the courage to speak to you and said, don't let good be the enemy of perfect. I'm sorry, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And I brought that to your attention because as a coach, in March, I was on the soccer fields and the lacrosse fields, and I was seeing that the fields didn't have grass on them. They had holes on them. I had refs telling me that the fields were unplayable and unsafe. And I discovered that in the last 3 years, my children no longer have home games in Westfield. They play soccer in Garwood, and they play soccer now at a private school in Edison. They don't play their home games here. And this is every weekend, 3,000 children who are no longer having their home games in their own town, where they have a W on their shirts, right? And I came here and I said, please, go walk the fields. Look at what I'm telling you. Please go do it. And I was hopeful that throughout the summer or through the spring and the summer and even the fall, I would see changes. And I have seen changes, but for the worse. Tamaqua is deplorable. It is a concrete piece of dirt. It is not grass. It is crabgrass at best. You have on your webpage a drone photograph of Tamaqua from about 4,000 feet. On the single day, it was green and mowed. But go there now. It doesn't look like that. It is not safe. You can play basketball on a grass field. That shouldn't be happening. I went to a flag football game 2 weeks ago, or I guess it was 3 weeks ago now. A child fell down and ended up getting carried off by his parents because he smashed his head, not on turf, but on the dirt. And this is where we're asking our children to play. That's not acceptable. Sid Fay Houlihan. I play myself on it in an old man league. That's what my kids call it. I watch my kids there 3-4 times a week, and the field is falling apart already. It's not being I don't even know the right term, but where they put down the little pebbles, the little rubber back down, it's not being done. When it rains heavily, it warps. It looks like a carpet. It doesn't look like a field. Sycamore, we did a good job 6 years ago or so, I think. I think that's when it was done. It's now crabgrass again. And I don't know what the right solution is. I know we can have reasonable debate politically or publicly about whether turf fields are the answer or grass fields are the answer. I personally think turf fields are probably the right answer because of the volume of children that we have playing on a weekly basis, because they have less maintenance costs associated with them. But we can't have a reasonable debate among anybody who is reasonable that our children should be playing on unsafe fields, and that's what we have today. And I was at the Rec Commission, I think it was a week and a half ago. I had to leave the summary meeting where they were discussing the master plan. And I was shocked to learn that we don't aerate our fields. We don't really seed our fields. Not because we can't, but because we've chosen not to. And I don't mean that as a deliberate attack. I don't believe it's deliberate. It's just sort of one of those, well, we have other stuff going on right now in town. But we have 3,000 kids every single weekend on the fields doing their best, doing their part to be our ambassadors. And when I say our, I'm in Westfield, our ambassadors. And I, as a coach, a volunteer, and as a father, know that I'm failing them. If I don't stand up and talk to you, our elected officials, and tell you that you are failing them. You are failing our children every single day that we do not fix this problem. So I implore you, don't go walk on the fields anymore. They're in bad shape. Figure out a solution. If that means sitting down with the Board of Ed, sitting down with leaders from each of the club teams, and figuring out how to maintain what you have until you decide what you're going to do in the future. You have to do that now, because I'm telling you, somebody's going to get hurt really badly, and you're on notice. It'll be on your conscience, not mine, because I was able to tell it today. Thank you.
Mr. Smith, I just want to say I'm on the Parks and Steering Committee, and I believe, Jim, we're meeting, what, April 23rd? October.
April.
October 23rd, so we should have more information at that time. But, yeah, I mean, I was extremely disappointed when the Tamaqua Park plan was postponed 2 years ago, but we have to move forward, and you know, I'm confident we'll get something done in the future.
But that's not an acceptable answer, Councilman. What we're doing in the future in a plan is great, but what about today? There was nobody seeding the fields when the rains happened 3 weeks ago. There's nobody aerating the fields so that grass can grow. Now, I know there is no chance that this council will approve a plan that turfs every single grass field we have in town. We're not going to turf the fields at the elementary schools. We're not going to turf the fields at Tamaqua and Sycamore. We're not going to do that. That's not realistic or reasonable. But those are all grass fields that all can be lined and all should have grass on them. And none of them do. None of them are level. None of them are playable. That's not acceptable.
Mr. Smith, let me add to what Councilman LaGrippo said. The plan that we had a couple of years ago, there was a lot of turf fields, and what that was going to allow us to do is what you're talking about is take care of those grass fields, you know, in a better manner, all right? Because we just have less grass fields and the heavy traffic on the turf fields. And that was always the thought with that plan from a couple of years ago. That's going to help our grass fields, the sycamores you're talking about, the Tamaqua grass fields, so on and so forth. So that was the overall plan that I think would have made for an environment that you wouldn't be up here right now.
It may have, and it's been almost 3 years, and the fields are worse.
Is there a reason why this is not being done? Is it because we're waiting for the master plan? Why isn't anything being done?
Is what being done?
Why aren't the fields being seeded
I
and
think that's a
maintained?
question for Jim. I don't oversee maintenance of the fields.
Okay, so let's clarify a few things. It's very easy to get up here and talk about seeding fields and aerating fields, but has to be plans, a budget set aside for that, and the fields have to be taken out of commission, cannot be used by games or players for many, many weeks or months. Our fields are overused, always have been, which is why we're doing a park strategic plan to actually look at how we're going to redo our whole park system and what the priorities should be. But I've been involved in recreation for years. There's no magic answer, as Mr. Smith suggested. We do everything we can do with the resources we have and with the time we have. The problem is the fields are used basically 365, 24/7, unless it's snow or rain. Unless we have organizations that use the fields that want to give up time and stay off the fields for weeks or months, we're more than happy to come up with a plan for aeration and seeding, but that means no use of certain fields. And that's never been acceptable to the organizations. But it definitely is something we need to continue to discuss at the Recreation Commission. But it's either you're going to do a renovation of a field, whether it be turf or grass, reseed it, level it, and put it in. That's many months or a year. We just saw, Kaler Stadium for the high school. It took them about, I don't know how long, but a while. Our own field, Houlihan Sid Fay, was done a couple of years ago, replaced the turf that was there, which lasts anywhere between 10 and 12 years. So when you do major renovations to a field or even maintenance to a field, it has to be taken out of play. And that's not something that we've been able to do for a long time.
So I have a simple question. So I know we have the master plan being considered now and plan the parks as part of a holistic look at it, right? So was there a decision made to let these fields not be maintained while that's going to be considered? No? So they're normally not seeded, not watered, and not maintained?
No, they're maintained as best we can when we can get on them. My son played flag football for years, and this time of year, the field's always dirt at Tamaqua because it's heavily used. It's the outfields of fields 1 and 2.
So this is the way they've always been then?
Always been this way. There's been no change.
Jim, we applied for a grant to see if we could possibly build into the woods at Tamaqua Park, right? Do we have any update on that?
We've applied for multiple grants. This year, the grant we've applied for at Tamaqua is for a wetlands delineation study for some of the wooded area that has some wetlands in there, we believe. So that we're hoping, actually, we're going to the county next week to hopefully pick up a grant check for that project. If we get money for that, that'll be a study that can be done to see if any of the land there is usable for additional field space or additional space in general. Can't really do much until you have that study in hand. Right. And that was suggested by the consultant we're using now, and also the county's been very supportive of this, and they said we should apply for that in addition to other things we're applying for, because we have, Tamaqua Park there's almost 40 acres of property that's not currently obviously developed, so to speak, and we're not looking to develop all of it, but if we can use some of that for various things, it could be very, very helpful to increase field space that we currently have a hard time doing. Plus, of course, we're going to be talking on October 23rd with the consultant for a strategic plan, and there are lots of opportunities with the schools as well, with the space they have. So we're going to hear a lot of, just like the master plan reexamination report, we expect to hear a very comprehensive strategic parks plan report, not just for fields, but for the whole park system. Fields are very, very important, but there's many other elements of parks than just fields. There's bike trails, there's walking, there's trails in general, there's all sorts of things. So we're going to have a very comprehensive parks plan. We're going to hear more about it on the 23rd, and the public will hear more about it probably in November.
Is the commission report going to talk about not just where to potentially add capacity, but how to maintain our capacity?
Absolutely, it has to. It has to. We're not going to build or redo something without having a maintenance plan. You have to have it.
Got it.
And it comes, and we've talked about it with the consultant, and they would not recommend anything if it wasn't, if you can't maintain it.
Right.
They
There's
don't
no
do it,
reason to do it.
and the
Yeah.
finances will be built into that as well.
Got it. Well, that makes sense.
Well, I just would like to go on the record and say, well, everybody wants to lament the fact that the Tamaqua plan did not go and that it was ready to go. As the Ward 4 representative where Tamaqua lives, I want to say that I don't believe that this would have had widespread support from my ward. That when you speak to the neighbors who live around the park, there's a great desire to maintain the natural integrity. So I think that as we're all discussing what should happen, that we need to remember that this plan had not yet been vetted by the public, and certainly what I heard and what I hear is a neighborhood that fiercely will defend the natural integrity of that park. So let's just be honest when we have this conversation.
Councilwoman, I just want to say from the meetings we've had, it's going to go full circle right back to Tamaqua Park. They do like Edison, but that's Board of Ed. They don't like Brightwood, not Sycamore. And so the solution is going right back to Tamaqua Park.
But actually, I'll just challenge you a little bit on that, because I have been talking with the Board of Ed, and just because it's a Board of Ed field doesn't mean it's off the table.
No, I'm just saying, but they
I
did
actually
like,
think I think the Board of Ed fields might be where the biggest opportunity lies.
they did like Edison.
Yeah. I'm just going back about Tamaqua. It's not to say Tamaqua is a bad place for that, but the challenge was that it didn't add field capacity, it only turfed existing fields, and it actually introduced additional traffic into the park. So what we're doing is we're creating turf fields, but at the expense of people who use the park for other things. And I think what the point was, I think there could be a win-win where we could actually create capacity with turf, but also improve a parking situation through potentially development in those where the environmental stuff is. So that really is it's just about trying to create win-wins where everybody can benefit. It's not to say Tamaqua is off.
Just want to add to your point, there's a balance between natural and turf, and with the volume we had, and that's part of the reason I was on the rec commission at that time, that we're like, we'd like to keep Tamaqua Park, green grass like Yankee Stadium, but with the traffic that we had, like we got to put turf in because it's just not going to be sustainable. So that's the
Well,
balance.
I believe that when you met with the rec department, you didn't necessarily meet with the people who use that park for other things other than recreation. And I'm saying that the constituency in Ward 4 has a right to be heard in this conversation, and I think they will be heard. I just don't like when I hear the conversation about the park. It makes it sound like this was ready to go, and the community really had not had a chance to speak to it yet. So I just want to correct the record from what I hear, and I continue to hear from my constituents. I would say we are all parents up here. We all know very, very well that we have a crisis with the fields, and we're committed to solving it. I just want to make sure that I'm representing the Ward 4 constituency who wants to make sure that there is a balance and that
And we are
all
playing
things are
flag
considered.
football for breast cancer there on
That's right.
Saturday.
Come
So
see us on-
we'll have the full experience ourselves.
Exactly right.
So, anybody else? Okay, hearing none, I close this portion of the meeting and move to bills and claims. Councilman Nayland.
I'd like to move bills and claims in the amount of $855,434.84.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Contract. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried. Next is reports of standing committees. Finance Policy Committee, Councilwoman Nayland.
There are 10 resolutions I'd like to move as a package. One is a resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant for unused parking permit fees. 2 is a resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant to replenish postage meter. 3, resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant for dog licenses for September 2019. 4 is a resolution authorizing the CFO to refund Recreation Department fees. 5 is a resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant for overpayment of a temporary food license. 6 is a resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant to Treasurer, State of New Jersey, for marriage/civil suit union license fee. 7 is a resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant for third quarter construction official state permit for 2019. 8 is a resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant for overpaid taxes in 2019. 9 is a resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a check for the balance of escrow monies. And 10 is a resolution to award contract for the purchase of police department vehicles.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Dardia. Any discussion?
Yeah, can I just make one comment?
Sure.
So I just think it's important for the public to know that on the 10th item that Councilwoman Nealon mentioned, awarding the contract for the purchase of police department vehicles, that includes the purchase of a hybrid patrol car. So speaking for the Green Team and speaking for myself, and a big thank you to the chief for going out of his way to find a hybrid patrol car. We may be the first New Jersey-based police department to have a hybrid patrol car. So thank you, chief. I think this is a big step forward for us as a community, and next year maybe 2.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried. Next is the Public Safety Transportation Parking Committee. Councilman Dardia.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move General Ordinance Number 2147 on first reading, an ordinance to amend the Code of the Town of Westfield, Chapter 13.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Contract. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Habagood, Councilman Arena,
Yes.
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilwoman Nealon.
Yes.
Councilman LaGrippo,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
Yes.
Councilman Stokes, Councilwoman Mackey.
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried. And next is the Code Review and Town Property Committee. Councilwoman Mackey.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move for the adoption of a resolution to approve children's amusement device.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman LaGrippo. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried.
There are also several ordinances scheduled for introduction tonight. The first is General Ordinance Number 2144, an ordinance amending the land use ordinance to establish electric vehicle infrastructure regulations, which I would like to move on first reading as amended.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Contract. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Habagood, Councilman Arena,
Yes.
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilwoman Nealon,
Yes.
Councilman LaGrippo,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
Yes.
Councilman Stokes, Councilwoman Mackey,
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
Next, I would like to move General Ordinance Number 2148 on first reading, an ordinance regulating, amending, and supplementing the Code of the Town of Westfield, New Jersey, in order to regulate the storage and delivery of pre-manufactured modular homes and building components.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Contract. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Habagood, Councilman Arena,
Yes.
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilwoman Nealon,
Yes.
Councilman LaGrippo,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
Yes.
Councilman Stokes, Councilwoman Mackey.
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
I would like to also move General Ordinance Number 2149 on first reading, an ordinance amending and supplementing the Code of the Town of Westfield, New Jersey, in order to meet the town's obligations under its Affordable Housing Settlement Agreement.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Dardia. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Habagood, Councilman Arena,
Yes.
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilwoman Nealon,
Yes.
Councilman LaGrippo,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
Yes.
Councilman Stokes, Councilwoman Mackey.
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
I would like to move General Ordinance Number 2150 on first reading, an ordinance to amend certain provisions of the Land Use Ordinance of the Town of Westfield, requiring the submission of a digital copy of applications to the Planning Board and Board of Adjustment.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Contract. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Habagood, Councilman Arena,
Yes.
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilwoman Nealon,
Yes.
Councilman LaGrippo,
Yes.
Councilman Contract,
Yes.
Councilman Stokes, Councilwoman Mackey.
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
Lastly, I would like to move General Ordinance Number 2151 on first reading, an ordinance to amend certain provisions of the Land Use Ordinance of the Town of Westfield to allow for projecting signs.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman LaGrippo. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Habagood, Councilman Arena,
Yes.
Councilman Dardia,
Yes.
Councilwoman Nealon?
Yes.
Councilman LaGrippo?
Yes.
Councilman Contract?
Yes.
Councilman Stokes? Councilwoman Mackey?
Yes.
Mayor Brindle?
Yes, this motion is carried. And last is the Public Works Committee. Councilman Contract?
Thank you, Mayor. I have two resolutions to move as a package. The first is a resolution awarding a contract for professional engineering services to HL Petroleum, and the second is a resolution authorizing change order number 1 for last year's sidewalk replacement program.
May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Mackey. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? This motion is carried. All the reports from department heads are accepted.
Can I just make
Yes,
one
any
comment?
comments?
Yeah, just
Absolutely.
one big thank you to some members of the Green Team who organized, we believe, the town's first ever fall park cleanup. So that occurred 2 days ago. And 63 volunteers from Westfield. So great job, Westfield. Helped clean up 3 parks. Gumbert, Tamaqua, and actually the area around the Westfield Indoor Tennis Center. And Ross Katz and Curdy Malik were responsible for putting this on. So great job, guys.
That's great.
I'd just like to add, Jen, congrats on the Westfield 300 design, very nice, good job. And also, I'd like to comment on the one-seat ride. There were many politicians, as we heard the mayor mention, that, came to town. We had the governor here, we had the congressman. We had, Assemblyman Bramnick and Senator Kane working on this, but there's a politician also that for years, I don't know if any other politician has been working this for as long as this person. In fact, when we first got the one-seat ride, he was the first person from the town to get on that, and it was Councilman LaGrippo. So I'd just like to, give my nod to him for years and years working on this. As the mayor said, we're not there yet with peak rides, but this guy's been on it for year in and year out, and we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Anybody
you,
else? May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, moved by Councilman LaGrippo, second.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Dardia. All in favor?
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Mark, thank you.
The field isn't, I mean, it is.